All right. All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just so everybody knows, we are recording this. So if you do not want to have your video on, that is fine. You're welcome to leave it on if you'd like, though. Um, we have a great presentation ahead of us today, and I'm so excited to introduce our speaker. But before we do that, I have a few housekeeping items. So we will save all of our questions till the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, feel free to either put it in the chat and Danny or Steph can ask it for you at the end, or you can ask it at the end of the presentation. We are also doing a raffle for all of our college and career readiness workshops. So anybody that attends will automatically have their name put into the raffle. And this week we are giving away a $5 gift card to Crumble Cookie.
Oh.
Yes. So we have some good ones. We did Dutch Bros last week. And then a little plug for the College and Career Center Instagram page. If you could go in and follow that, it is THS_College Career Center. We are sharing a lot of information, tips, tools, resources, scholarships there. And both Danny and Stephanie are taking over that. So you will see a lot of them in the stories. So be sure to follow us. With that, I will turn it over to Ryan. Ryan is an admissions counselor at U of O. He is amazing, and he is going to talk to us about the college application and share some tips, advice, and all of his wisdom.
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica. As you just heard, my name is Ryan Bottimore. I am an admissions counselor, so I am going to be talking to you about the application process, what to know beforehand, what you need to know during this process, and I will talk to you a bit about how to write an effective college essay. I am a former student, so I was in this process not too long ago. I worked with Danny and Stephanie not too long ago as a student ambassador. But that's just a little about myself, but I am super excited to be here. And thank you so much, Jessica and Relena, for allowing me to do this workshop. I'm going to start presenting my presentation. Let me all know if you're able to see this. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is what the agenda, like I said, I will be talking to you about what you need to know before you start the application process, what you need to know during this process, application do's and don'ts. So, tips and tricks of how to make the most of your application, and then also your essay tips and tricks. It's, a lot of schools require that you submit an essay. Some have required prompts, some are very open-ended, but I just definitely wanted to give you kind of my suggestions since I do read applications, and I just want to make sure that you are writing the most effective essay that you can to really let yourself shine. So before I talk about anything about the application process, I really want to let you know what your senior year timeline looks like. So most applications, starting in August, they open up. So you can apply to your institutions early as August. So whether you are, a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior year, the August right before you start your senior year, that's when a lot of those applications do open up. October is when your free application for federal student aid opens up. So you have a little bit of time, between the time you are filling out applications to really hone in on, looking at these other financial aid scholarships through FAFSA and making sure that you are completing everything that you need. And so you're able to pay for the school that you attend. In November, most early action and early decision deadlines are then. November is an extremely important time, and I will definitely talk to you about what the differences between early action and early decision are. But if you don't want to apply early, you're totally fine. Many regular admission deadlines are coming up in January. So if you don't want to apply anything early, just make sure that you meet the regular deadlines of January. March and April, this is when you usually receive your admissions decision, and this is when you receive a lot of your financial aid packages. So, this is when you will get to know whether or not you've been accepted to this school, and you'll be able to really understand what your financial aid offer is, so you can make that best decision possible. What is most financially feasible for me? May, this is where you confirm your decision. So May 1st. You really have to let the schools know that you're coming or not going. This is really important just because if you don't let the schools know, we're kind of in this limbo stage of are you coming, are you not going? And if you already made your decision, all of the other schools that you applied for that you didn't let know will keep getting in contact with you, being like, hey, you haven't let us know of your decision, please let us know. So just for your sake and our sake, definitely confirm your decision by May 1st. I also wanted to let you know about June and August, so a year from when the applications start opening up. This is where you go and attend your orientation. This is where you register for classes. This is really, going through that programming to really set you up for being a successful student wherever you end up going. I do want to do a little bit of disclaimer. Obviously, this is very Oregon-centric, meaning that all of the pictures that you're seeing, all of the color schemes you're seeing are very University of Oregon. But everything that I'm saying right now is applicable to a lot of schools across, the nation. So a lot of the things I'll be talking to you about are just general tips and tricks, not only for the U of O, but for any institution that you are looking at. So applying, what you need to know before you start. So the basics, I really want you to really do your research before you start applying. I really want you to understand what the difference is between, early decision versus early action. If you don't apply early, maybe you want to just do rolling decision or regular decision. Really understanding what these terms mean, so when you apply for them, you really get an understanding of what that decision is going to look like moving forward. I really also want to let you know what the benefits of each are. Like I said, I will run through what these definitions are after this slide, but I really want you to start thinking about, doing your research, really understanding which, this deadlines you're actually going to be meeting. If you apply and you hear the term holistic review, are you really understanding what that holistic review really means? Or are schools just looking at your GPA? Maybe they require SAT and ACT scores. We really want you to understand what that review process looks like. So when you apply, you can really frame your application and essay to really make the most and help the admissions counselors when they review your application. Which platform and application is the most convenient for you? Just for the University of Oregon, we have 3 applications that you can choose from. Other institutions may only have 1, 2, 3, 4. We just don't know. And so that's why I'm saying really do your research to understand which applications you can apply for or apply through. And I will talk to you about some of those, a little bit later as well. I also really want you to understand, does the school have minimum requirements? So I will talk to you about what the University of Oregon's requirements are. I can't speak about any other university, but I will also talk to you about that a little later in the presentation. So really getting an understanding of what these deadlines actually mean, what these terms mean. So early decision. This means students apply by this deadline must commit to this school you apply for. It is a binding contract. When you apply early decision, many times you also agree not to apply to any other school. So this is, like I said, a binding contract. There's many benefits that come along with it. However, a lot of students don't want to be they don't want to be held down by just this decision. They want to keep their options open. So maybe if early decision is not the right fit for you, maybe you want to do early action. So early action is where you apply and you simply know your admissions sooner rather than later. It is the non-binding contract. So whether you apply early decision, you don't apply to any other school, you get in and you have to go to that school. Early action is the non-binding. You can apply to as many different schools as you want. You just get your decision sooner rather than later. So I really want you to really understand what these differences are. So when you do go and apply, you fully understand, what that process is going to look like. Maybe you don't want to apply early action or early decision, which is usually around the November 1st deadline. Maybe you just want to apply regular decision. Regular decisions usually take place in January, like I mentioned, but this is where students, apply at any time before the deadline, and you will receive a decision in the time frame designated by the university. So for the University of Oregon, for example, we have a deadline for a regular decision of January 15th. If you apply by January 15th, you'll hear no later than April 1st. And that means we are rolling admissions. The reason why I say no later than April 1st is because once we get to your application, we will give you your decision. We're rolling admissions. So, rolling admissions means students will receive a decision that is dependent on the time when they apply. The sooner you apply, the sooner you will receive a decision. Like I said, if you apply sooner rather than later, you will definitely receive your decision sooner rather than later. But usually they have a cutoff date for the U of O, for example, is April 1st. And April 1st is the last day you will find out your decision. But I just really want you to start thinking about these, which decision, which deadline you really want to focus in on. Choose it, fill out all of the applications, and really make sure that you're completing it before you actually know your decision. I also want you to understand what holistic review means. Holistic review takes into account factors such as students' strengths of high school coursework, academic and extracurricular interests, unique talents, personalities. By evaluating an application from a holistic perspective, we take the time to get to know the applicants as people, not as numbers. So this is really, I really want to emphasize this, not only because we do this at the U of O, but I know a lot of other public universities and a lot of other schools across the nation, they share holistic review. They go through this process, and we really want to understand you as an individual. We don't look just at your GPA. We don't look just at your grades. We really take the time to really get to know who you are. And that is why when you are working through your application, the tips and tricks that I'll be helping you will really help frame who you are and let you, really shine, because we are a holistic review process. Some of the applications that you're maybe able to apply through, a lot of the schools you're maybe able to apply through the common application, the coalition application. Maybe you apply through the university-based application. Whatever it is, I really want you to choose the application that's going to be the most effective and the most convenient and most efficient for you. The Common App and the coalition application, you can apply through multiple different schools through this particular application. University-based applications, they usually are just for that institution. Like we have the Oregon application, which means that you can't apply to any other school through this application. It's only to the University of Oregon. So like I said, the Common App and the coalition seem to be the most, common, just because you're going to apply to different schools through this platform. But there are, university applications. So maybe if the University of Oregon is your only choice and you're like, I'm going to the U of O no matter what, you can apply through the Oregon application and you don't have to worry about, sending any applications anywhere else. But ultimately, it's up to you. I really want you to understand that the universities really want you to, choose the one that's going to be the most convenient for you. Some schools may only offer the university-based application. Some may only offer, the Common App and the university one. U of O, we offer all three, but I really want you to do your research to understand which applications your schools that you're applying for accept. And like I said, I want to talk to you about, are there any requirements before you start applying that you have to fulfill? For the U of O, like I said, I can't touch on any other school. This is just the UO admissions requirements. You have to make sure that you complete 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, and 2 years of second language. This is all taken through your high school career. If you meet those, you meet the minimum requirements. We don't have a required GPA. We are test optional. This is just for us to get an understanding of, are you meeting the basic, college preparatory classes in high school? This is just for the UO, like I said, really get an understanding what the requirements are for each individual institution you are applying to. So now, I talked to you about, the deadlines. I talked to you a little bit about, the holistic review process. Are they, looking at you as a person, or are they looking just at the numbers? I talked to you about the minimum requirements. But after you submit your application, I really want you to understand, Are there any supporting documentation that you may need to submit extra? So a lot of schools maybe look at your demonstrated interest. Have you attended any campus tours, any campus events? U of O, we do not do demonstrated interests. We don't look at that. However, other schools do take that into consideration. How many times have you been in contact with your admissions counselor? How many tours have you taken? Have you contacted anybody else? They look at that. So I really want you to understand that all of these schools, there's different processes. And I know that that's a little bit, daunting to do your research to really understand. But if you only have 1, 2, or 3 institutions that you're looking at, you only have to understand, those 3 institutions. But the U of O in one particular, I can only talk about our process. We don't look at that, but I know that other schools do. Are schools test optional, test blind, or are schools actually still requiring you to submit ACT and SAT scores? Really understand that particular aspect. Maybe, they are test optional or test blind. Are they requiring it for financial aid and scholarships? Are they test blind for both admissions and scholarships? Or are they requiring it for admissions and financial aid and scholarships? This is why I'm saying do your research, because if you would apply to a school and they are requiring you to submit ACT and SAT scores, but there's none in your general area, that might cause some problems moving forward. So that's why I'm saying do your research. Most institutions, I do want to say, that are test optional for fall 2021. But like I said, do your research to really get that understanding. Are students required to submit official transcripts, or are schools going more towards a self-reported academic record? So this, instead of actually having your school send over an official transcript, this is where you input it yourself. This is where schools are, the self-reported academic records is where we're giving the students the power to put in your transcript as is. Fill out all of the classes that you've been taking, get all of the grades that you have received, but really know the difference. Are you required to send a transcript, or are you filling out this record by yourself and you don't actually have to submit that transcript? Do you need letters of recommendation? If so, how many? If you do, really understand and really ask those individuals who are going to write a stellar letters of rec. I really want you to understand that some students or some schools may offer letters of recommendation, required essays, resumes, cover letters, list of extracurricular activities, interviews, auditions, portfolios. I just really hope that you're doing your research so you are able to submit all of the required and supporting documentation that you may need to complete your file so you can receive that decision on time. So if you apply early decision or early action, making sure that you're submitting those by those particular deadlines. Like our early action at the U of O is November 1st, but our supporting documentation isn't required until November 15th. If you apply regular decision, which is January 15th, our supporting documentation deadlines aren't until February 15th. So really make sure you know these deadlines and submit every supporting documentation to complete your file. So applying, what to know during this process. And I know there's a lot of information kind of being thrown your way. So please write down your questions if you have any. I will open it up to questions at the end, but really, I really want to emphasize, this is extremely important to understand and to research. So I really want you to start thinking about questions that you may have for me after. So what to know during your process, the application process. Here are some tips and tricks that for me as an admissions counselor who reads applications, this is for me to make sure that you are doing, you're filling it out correctly and that you're making sure that you're framing your application to really help you and persuade the admissions counselors to admit you to the school. So number 1, follow directions. Pretty self-explanatory, but make sure you're answering all parts of the prompt. So making sure that you're filling it out correctly. What are the questions really asking you? Are you answering what is required, or maybe you're going around the question and you're not actually answering that question? Be thorough, do not rush through. And this is extremely important. Please be thorough. Please give us as much detail, as much context as possible. Do not rush through. We can definitely tell when you've rushed through because there's sometimes often mistakes. Number 2 is be honest. We want to know who you really are, not a made up version of yourself, not your alter ego that you wish you were. Really let us know who you are as a person, because we really want to make that best decision possible. We really want to understand who we're admitting to the U of O. This is a place for you to show off. This is a place for you to talk about your accomplishments, successes, failures, challenges, anything that will really let you shine and really let us know who you are as an individual. This is a place to advocate for yourself. Be proud of who you are. Let us know who you are as a person, and be as accurate as possible, especially when it comes to specific dates, grades, GPA, things of that sort. All across the nation, schools are just really wanting you to, fill it out, be thorough, be accurate, and be honest. Number 3 is seek help from others. This is sometimes the one that I stress the most, just because a lot of students don't seek help. You have a community of friends, family, teachers, advisors, admissions counselors, any individual that you surround yourself with. We all want you to succeed. So really take advantage of us, take advantage of your family, really, allow them to read your application beforehand. They know you the best, and they'll definitely give you the most honest, depiction of whether this application is framing you in a good light or a bad light. This one I want to stress. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay. We live in a society where there's a stigma where a lot of individuals don't ask for help. They don't want to look like they need help. It is okay to ask for help. I want to help you. I know that everyone you surround yourself, we want you to succeed. We want you to seek help from others. Number 4, proofread, proofread, proofread. This kind of touches in on the last slide, some of the tips and tricks. Please look over your application at least twice to make sure everything is accurate. Have a family member look over it, a friend look over it. Every year, we receive a handful of students who contact us about a mistake they made on their application. They put in the wrong birth date. They typed their name wrong. Whatever it is, we do receive, a handful of students that contact us about some problems within their application, some mistakes. That's why I say proofread, proofread, proofread. Be as efficient as possible. I was telling you, choose the application that is most convenient for you. Choose the application that's most convenient for you. There's no subcontext. There's nothing behind it. I really want you to make this as stressless as possible. This is a process where you can seek help, you can be thorough, but you can be efficient as well. I really want you to emphasize, and I really want you to understand that I, as an admissions counselor, although I am here to speak about the U of O, my first and foremost responsibility is to make sure you really understand this application process. I want you to succeed. So whatever question that you may have, please reach out to me. We are here to help you. Last one, number 6, is stay in touch and follow up. I really emphasize this as well. As you can tell, I emphasize a lot of things just because I really want you to succeed. But please stay in touch and follow up. Once you submit your application, I don't want that to be the last communication that you have with us. Maybe you missed a supporting documentation or required documents that you must submit. Please check in with us, being like, am I okay? Is my application complete, or are other things that I need to do before I receive my decision? I really want you to know that we are here to help, and we want you to, really stay in contact with us just in case something does happen and your application is kind of in a limbo stage just because we are missing some required documentation. So now, applying, how to write an effective college essay. So I talked to you about, the application where you put in, your biographical, demographical information. This is where you put in your grades. This is where you put in your classes, previous institutions that you've attended, everything about you. But what really, helps institutions make the best decision possible is writing this essay. So the essay really gives us an understanding of who your voice is or what your voice is, and it really lets us know more about who you are as an individual. So I really want you to understand that the real purpose of the essay is to demonstrate your ability and desire to be successful in college and beyond. It is to show that your true intent to attend the school and the ability to think and write clearly, logically, and abstract. So think about what the actual purpose of your essays are, and this will definitely help you when you actually start writing your essay. So the basics, getting started. So a lot of schools may require an essay. Some schools may only have optional essays. So what I said previously, do your research. Understand what is required in the essay and not in the essay. Is it required or is it optional? What is the question you want to answer? Some schools may have prompts that you have to choose from. Maybe they list 3. Maybe it's very open-ended where you can write about absolutely anything. But what is the question that you want to answer? Is this essay for all colleges, or are you writing for one in particular? This is really, this is really important, just because if you are writing an essay and you address it, dear University of Oregon, or dear University of California, Los Angeles, or dear, Miami University, whatever it is, please change if you address it. I've seen where individuals and students just copy and paste it, but they don't change the institution that they're talking about or that they're referencing. Please, please, please check whether you're writing it for all colleges or are you just addressing it to one in particular. What is your thesis? What are you trying to show and prove? How are you framing your overall application? Does it have a beginning, middle, and end? Or are you meeting that 650 word count and you're stuck right in the middle of what you were talking about? What do you want to, what do you want to prove and what do you want to show in this essay? Please, please, please do your research. What do you want the audience to take away from this essay? Please do your research. It'll help you not only, with your essay, but it also make an effective, essay where it'll persuade us whether or not we're going to admit you or not. So here are some Common App essay examples, and these are just examples that are through the Common App. This seems to be the most common just because, hence the name, the Common App. But we do have a few prompts, and there are some prompts that you can choose from. I've listed them there, but I really want to show you and tell you that you can absolutely write about anything. The very last one is share an essay of any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. It is really up to you. There are a few prompts just because I don't know if you've all watched SpongeBob before, but when SpongeBob writes, his boating essay, boating school essay, what he learned in boating school is, and he's just stuck and all he has is the, and he's just focusing on the, and he's just stuck. There are a few prompts that really help you get a start of what question you're actually answering. However, if you want to write about your passions, write about, why you want to be an Oregon Duck, why you want to be at a particular school, really focus on and let the institutions know who you really are. Let us know more about you. The application process gives you a lot of information about what you've been involved in, who you are, your identities, your background, but the Common App or the essay actually really emphasizes up and lets us hear your voice as an individual. So choose a topic, choose a prompt, or just go in open-ended. It's completely up to you, but here are some examples of what essays you could be writing for colleges. I want to really talk about authenticity and empathy. Tell us about you. Who am I? What do I love? Why am I applying to college? Why am I applying to insert any school you're applying? How do I want to portray myself in my application? As you can see, every question that I've asked, it's all about me. It is all about who you are. I don't want to hear about your friend. I don't want to hear about your family members. I don't want to hear about, I don't want to hear anything other than who you are. That is why the essay is here. It really helps us understand who you are and lets us hear your voice. Connect with your audience. Who is your audience? Who is reading your application? If you're applying to the U of O, I'm the one reading your application. Myself, Ryan Bottimore, I'm the one reading your application. So really connect with me. Really, what are you sharing? Are you sharing more experiences or are you sharing more emotions? I really want you to connect with me. Those make really effective essays if I can empathize with you. Be like, yeah, I've been sadder than anything that I've ever, dreamt of. I've been happier than anything I've ever experienced. I really want you to share these instances where I can really empathize with you. By showing authenticity and by showing, by empathizing with your audience, it really makes an effective college essay that will definitely prepare you and make us give a better decision. So here's some essay tips and tricks. So like I said, a lot of these are going to be overlapping with your application tips and tricks. But what I really want to emphasize here is do use the spelling and grammar checker on your computer as you write. We live in a time where we have, spelling and grammar check. This is a savior. I really want you to utilize this function. Go into Word, Microsoft Word, and type out your essay. It'll highlight which words you spelled incorrectly, or it might show grammatical errors. Really take advantage of these. And then once you're done with that, have your counselor, teacher, friend, look over it twice. Whatever it is, look it over to really get a better understanding of, is this essay really going to be effective at getting institutions to really choose you? Stand up and be like, I want to choose this individual who, overcame this particular challenge, or, they helped out their community through multiple initiatives. We really want you to, make sure that this is a flawless essay. This will also make it very strong. Use your own experiences. Like I said in the past one, all about authenticity. I want you to understand that this essay is about you. It's about no one else. I know it's very hard to really talk about your, what your strengths are. When somebody asks, what are your strengths? I know it's very hard. You kind of sit there, you kind of do a, evaluation of your life so far, and you kind of have that epiphany where you're like, oh gosh, what am I talking about? I know it's hard, but really talk about who you are. It's only going to make your essay stronger. Avoid overgeneralizing. You only have 650 words. Sometimes essays can be shorter, sometimes can be longer. But at the U of O, you only have 650 words. Make the most of it. Don't use generalizing quotes. Don't use most people or everyone knows. Really share your personal thoughts, feelings, and values about certain things you're talking about. Number 4, I have seen this happen before. Please do not recycle essays you used for school. We can tell. This will not tell us any more about who you are. If you use an essay that you wrote about, a book that you read in an English class, or, you wrote a scientific essay for a biology or chemistry class, please do not use those. Although your writing could just be phenomenal, it's not really giving us any more information about who you are. The essay is not a place to reiterate the rest of your application. Like I said, your application is giving us a lot of information about your identity, your background, what you've done in the classroom and outside the classroom. Let us know in the essay, what else? What else can you tell us about you to really let yourself shine? Avoid being too general or broad. Be specific and get deeper. Kind of same thing as one. Don't overgeneralize. Pretty self-explanatory. Avoid using cliches or quotes. Like I said, 650 words. Please do not put quotes in there or cliches. Really utilize your 650 words to the best of your ability to really let yourself shine. We look for essays that express originality, growth, creativity, authenticity, motivation, and we value depth and not breadth. Really get deep, really tell us more about who you are. Double check to make sure you answered the prompt. Don't get off track. Like I said, 650 words. Make sure you're answering the questions. Have a middle, or have a beginning, middle, and end. And then the last one, have fun. Ultimately, I want you to make this as less stressful as possible. I know that you are probably going to be stressed It's easier said than done, but this is a place for you to really showcase who you are. Have fun with it. Please, this is extremely important, especially in the times that we are living. Have fun. Ultimately, like I said, we are living in very unusual times, mid-election, mid-pandemic. There's a lot of things on people's minds, but have fun with this. I want this to be as stressless as possible. That is the last thing I have. I know that there was a lot of information thrown at you today. Hopefully you learned something new. You understood this, the experience in the process, so you can tackle this application process with ease. If you have any questions after this, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen so individuals can, start asking questions.
All right. Wow. That was amazing. Yes. Good job. I always love listening to you, Ryan. You have so much energy and passion, and I just love that. I think it definitely comes through, and I appreciate that about you. You totally knocked it out of the park. I think we all learned so much about the application process, the do's and don'ts. And I noticed that our chat was blowing up. So I'm going to turn it over to Danny to kind of go through that, and hopefully you can answer some of those questions.
Awesome. Once again, thank you, Ryan. You're amazing. And we do have a lot of questions. And if someone has another question and they want to unmute themselves, please do so. That's totally fine. But I'm going to start off. Joseph, you had some awesome questions in the chat, so shout out. First question from Joseph is, if you apply via university, will you be able to apply to other colleges or not? Or does that mean that you're committed to that school? So I think by that he means if you do like the Oregon application.
That's a great question. I wouldn't worry about which application you're choosing. I would more focus on the deadlines, because you can choose the Common App and apply early decision. You can use the Oregon app and apply early action. So it's whatever application is the most convenient for you. There's no, I can't think of that word. There's no disclaimer when it comes to choosing an application. The decisions, the early decision, early action, regular decision, rolling admissions is what you really need to emphasize of whether you can apply to other schools or not. So you can use you can use all three applications and apply to early decision. But at the U of O, we don't have early decision. We have only early action. That's why I say do your research. But if you use that university-based application and apply early decision, that means that you can't apply to any other school, and it's usually that binding contract. Does that make sense, Joseph?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, next question. For early action, is it true that you need to have a strong application and have to be above average in school in order to be admitted compared to regular?
We do not give a preference, and it's up to the student on whether. I will also do a disclaimer. This is just for the University of Oregon, what I'm talking to about now. I can't talk about any other school. This is the only school that I've worked at. With our early action deadline, it's up to you whether you want to apply early action or regular decision. It's up to you. If you want to apply early action, there's no minimum requirements. Same thing with regular decision. It's just up to you. There's no, you have to be better, you have to have an above GPA. No, we don't offer that. It's just if you want to apply early action, go for it, do it. If you apply early action, you can receive 3 decisions, not just 2, 3 decisions. If you've been accepted, if you've been denied, or you've been deferred for more holistic review. And that usually catches students off guard, being like, what does that mean? It's just that we need more time with your application. We might have a second person look at your application so we can give you that best decision possible. But if you apply early action, you'll hear no later than December 15th, which is a month and a half, which is absolutely incredible. And so that's right around the holiday time, to like, family, I got into the U of O or something like that. But it's ultimately up to you, and there's really, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, next question. We have 2 questions that are very similar, so I'm just going to them. But what are colleges or admission counselors looking for when reviewing an application or when students apply?
So Like I say, I can only talk about my experience looking at applications. Other institutions may also have the same process of doing a holistic review. What I look at when I'm looking at a holistic review is I look at your grades. Obviously, I look at your GPA. I look at your grade trend. It really shows me who you are. Maybe you had a rough transition from middle school to high school, and maybe you didn't do really stellar your first year. But by your second year, your third year, and your senior year, you really got a hang of it and you are just performing phenomenally. I look at that, be like, maybe they had a rough transition, but they turned it around, they studied, they really changed, their work ethic, and it really shows. I also look at your senior schedule. Are you taking a lot of out periods, or are you still challenging yourself? I do also want to emphasize, and universities have the right, if you've been accepted early action by December 15th and you're like, I'm in, I can just sit back and relax, I don't have to do anything, I'll just slide by. We look at your final high school transcript and we look at your final grades. Universities have the right to withdraw your admissions. So just make sure you're taking that into consideration as well. I also look at your activities, work, volunteer experience, not only as an academic, but as an individual, a community member. So maybe you can't do anything through your school because you have family responsibilities. You have younger siblings that you have to look after because your parents are working to support your family. Really let us know what takes up your time outside the classroom. Piece of advice that I give you, since this is all about advice and tips and tricks, give us as much context as possible. I have seen it many times when you list your activities, your extracurricular activities, people just say, I played volleyball for 3 years. I played football for 4 years. You're like, cool. Can you elaborate on maybe you were team captain, or you learned teamwork or collaboration with others, worked in a diverse group? Really elaborate on the skills and the benefits of being a part of that institution. It really shows us that you're evaluating these things and really, you're looking at these to really, are these benefiting me or do I need to move on? So really focus on that and giving us that much as context as possible. And then the essay, my personal favorite, just because at the U of O, it's open-ended. We have you can write about anything. It's 650 words. You can literally write about anything. I find it so interesting to see how students shape and mold that 650 word essay to really emphasize who you are. And sometimes it can be really beneficial. Sometimes it might be a downfall. So use the tips and tricks that I've said in this presentation to really, use them to your advantage to be that stellar applicant where we stand up and say, we have to admit this individual.
Awesome.
Hopefully that helped. Yeah.
That was beautiful. Next question. What is your favorite application that you have read, and then why did it stand out to you?
Oh my gosh, that is a difficult question. I don't think I don't think one comes to mind, just because they're all unique. Everyone's application is completely different. The applications that I will say that stand out the most are writing essays that, well, first off, the essays the applications that stand out are the ones that give me the most context, that really use that self-understanding, that introspection of, what activities, what your skills you've learned, things of that sort. But the essays that really stand out to me are the ones that aren't overused by the overly population of applicants. You writing about an injury that you had in sport and how you overcame that. That seems to be a most common application essay. Writing about, I just want you to write about something that's personal, write about something that you're passionate about, because ultimately that's going to come across. But there's not really one that stands out. Just give me as much context as possible so I can make that best decision.
Awesome. Is U of O still doing the optional second essay?
So that's a good thing. And when I was talking to you about required versus optional essays, some schools may offer optional essays, some just require one essay. At the U of O, we have one required 650 word personal statement. And then we also have 2 separate optional essays that you can utilize. The first one is more about, why you want to be an Oregon Duck. What do you want to be a part of when you are a student? Things of that sort. The other one is, I think, the most important, and it's the special circumstance essay. Most important, I mean like most important optional essay. The most important optional essay is the special circumstances, because a lot of individuals have special circumstances. Maybe they have an IEP, maybe they have, need more time on tests. Maybe I just really want you to utilize these special circumstances just in case you have a family emergency, a medical emergency. We are all living in a special circumstance with COVID-19. Utilize this if your family's been affected more than others, and this is really having, a detriment on your high school curriculum. Utilize that special circumstance to give us that context. But yeah, we have those two optional essays.
And then do you recommend students do that?
So I will say, if you write them, I will look at them and I will read them. If you don't, I won't think twice. Just like a regular essay, sometimes it can be beneficial, sometimes it cannot be. But usually the more context you give us, the better decision you have. But if you don't submit it, like I said, I'm not going to even think twice about it.
Awesome. Jessica had a question. How do we report College Now classes? Do we say we went to college since these credits are from LCC, or record it as a high school course?
That's a little bit tricky just because we have switched to that self-reported academic record. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, listed on your self-reported academic record, I also recommend sending your transcript from LCC that shows that you've been enrolled and these are College Now courses. That would be my course of action. I don't know what the correct way to do it, but that is the best way that I can think of where you're covering both bases.
A little tricky one for you. We love it.
A little bit tricky. Throw me through a loop.
Next question is, what are the benefits to applying early action / decision? I know you talked about this a little bit, but it's always good to redo it, I guess.
Always good to reiterate things. I do want to also make a disclaimer, a lot of disclaimers, just because the application process, the deadlines, it's ultimately up to you what's going to be the most beneficial for you. Talking about early decision, if it's your #1 school and you know that you're going there, if you've been admitted, that might be the place where you apply early decision. Coming from my own personal standpoint, actually, I won't even talk about my personal opinion. Early action is, I think there's a lot of pros and cons to it. The pros to it are, you get your decision sooner rather than later. You also, if you want to apply to STAMP scholarship, which is our most prestigious scholarship where it pays for your tuition fees and it gives you some extra money, you have to meet the early action deadline. That's pretty much the only two things that I can see that are the benefits and the pros of it. Rolling decision may give you a little more time, a little bit more flexibility to get your grades up, things of that sort. But ultimately, it's up to you on whether you want to apply early action or early decision.
Great. Does Oregon require a letter of recommendation?
I do want to say for the General University of Oregon application, no, letters of recommendation are not required. You're more than welcome to submit them. I know students do. They have them and they just want to submit them, and I will look at them and I will read them. Some of the departments that you may be applying for, some majors, they might require letters of rec, but it's ultimately what major you are choosing.
Do you have any recommendations for students on how to get a good letter of recommendation from someone?
That's a good question. Obviously, choose someone who will write the most stellar letters of recommendation. Find someone, an advisor, a college and career coordinator, a counselor, someone who you have built a strong, relationship throughout your high school career. They know who you are. They can really touch on your experiences as a student, as a community member. I have seen it where students, ask teachers and they don't have that, relationship. They've only known them for 2 months. It doesn't really showcase to us and it doesn't really give us a stellar letters of rec. It just says, yeah, this student was in my English class, this year, they're a great student. Great, but really find these, relationships that you have built over the course of your high school and find those and ask them with a grace period as well. They're not going to write it overnight. Give them the time frame that's going to work best for them.
Awesome. Next question. How would students know who their UO admissions counselor is to reach out to, or do they just contact the office? And this would be like stay in touch if they have any questions, or like to do follow up after like the submission.
If you attend any high school visits to your school, usually the admissions counselor who is speaking is your rep. I am the Lane County rep for the U of O, so I will be your admissions counselor for the U of O. Usually you can find it on the website, like on our website, the U of O, you go to UO admissions counselors, you type in your zip code and it'll pop up the profile of who your admissions counselor is. I know a lot of schools do that. So if you know your zip and you just access the internet and go to their websites, usually you're able to find who your admissions counselor is. But since I'm here, I'm your admissions counselor. So, but ultimately that's the recommendation that I would go, is just go through the website.
Woo, y'all have the best admissions counselor right here. I'm biased though, so it's okay. Last two questions that are in the chat. So I'll just finish these, then we can check if anybody else has any in the room. But
yeah.
What is unique about the University of Oregon, and what leads most students to choose this college?
Oh, okay. So we are kind of switching gears from admissions to why the U of O. That's a interesting thing, because I was a student and now I'm a faculty member. So there's a lot of things I love about the U of O, not only as a student, but as a faculty member now. Oh my gosh, this is a hard question. And I will do a disclaimer. You are the one who's going to know which environment you're going to thrive the most in. You're going to know which factors are most important to you. So when you are looking at schools and colleges, really make sure, like if the University of Oregon checks your boxes, definitely, learn more about the U of O and apply there. But do your research to really understand what your factors are that are, like maybe class sizes is a huge thing. Maybe campus size, student population, or the size of campus. Really understand the factors that are going to be the most important for you. And then, research, talk to admissions counselors, do that to really get an understanding of what the school is like. My personal favorite things about the U of O and things that I really cherish about the university and why, I pursued a career at the U of O is I don't think I've ever been part of a community where we're so prideful about being Oregon Ducks. Anywhere you go, any place you go in the United States or maybe even the world, you will definitely run into other Oregon Ducks, and they will let you know that they are a fan. They'll either show their O, they will yell, "Go Ducks." I had an Oregon t-shirt on and I was in Alaska, and someone pulled me off the street and was like, "Go Ducks." I'm like, it's an unbelievable community that we're so prideful, and we just love being an Oregon Duck. And I think that's what really draws students in, is that community, that atmosphere of that we love the Oregon Ducks, we love being a part of the U of O. Other things, but there are many other things, other traditions, things of that sort, but ultimately it's up to you on what the school, if it checks your boxes or not. If the U of O doesn't, I'm not going to hold that against you. I just want you to make that best decision possible for you. Hopefully I understood that question correctly. Please let me know if I need to elaborate a little more.
That was my question, so you did great. You passed the test, just kidding. Well, those are the last questions that's in the chat. Does anybody have any other questions, or they need a clarification on something that Ryan said? If so, this is like a good time to do that now.
I know you talked about like letters of recommendation, but recently, like one of the counselors that I was close with, she moved. Would I still be able to get a recommendation letter from her?
If you have a point of contact, you have a way to contact this individual, I would recommend doing that. Although they're not directly, working at the school or working in the place that you are currently residing, you still built that relationship, so they still know who you are. Yes, reach out to them. You're more than welcome to, reach out to them and submit that letters of rec.
Also, it was in the very beginning, like you said that in like June through August, like you get to go like to see like the virtual tours or something, and like to see your classes. But do you guys like have like a recommendation of like the classes, or do you get to choose them?
So, at the U of O, we do have some requirements. We have our general education classes. You have to fulfill electives, a minimum requirement, credits, and your major classes. There's no set classes that you have to take each term, each year. It's up to you on how you want to fulfill them. Some are prereqs that lead into other classes, so you have to make sure you're fulfilling those before you move on. But the orientation process that happens the summer before you start, this is where you learn about all of the different resources. You learn about the support systems that are going to be making you successful at the U of O. This is also a place for you to talk with an academic advisor. And this academic advisor will walk you through, this is what classes you need to take in order to graduate. They might walk you through your 4-year plan. They release you. You're allowed to register for classes, but it's up to you on, which classes you are going to be registering for. Although we have requirements, there's no requirements on when you have to complete them. Hopefully that makes sense, Stephanie.
Any last questions? These are awesome, y'all. Thank you for participating. Well, Joseph, I feel like you were about to say something. I might have cut you off, but maybe not. Okay. Well, just
Can I add something in real quick? On the letters of recommendations, so whether you go to Thurston or Springfield, we have letter of recommendation request forms for you guys to fill out. And those are basically an opportunity for you to share a little bit more about yourself. So sometimes teachers or counselors, well, not counselors, but people that you might be asking might not know your full story. And like Ryan said, they might know that you did really well in their class, but they might not realize that at home, you're taking care of, your brother or your sister, and mom works at night to put food on the table. And those are important things for us to know when we're writing those, because it helps us write a better letter of recommendation. We will be doing a workshop on what I like to call brag sheets. And brag sheets are basically kind of like a resume, but they're all the fun and exciting things that you've done, all the things that you've accomplished, and an opportunity to put together that on a sheet so you can brag about yourself. Because other than probably Ryan and I, we could boast about ourselves and say all the great things that we've done. That's not an easy thing to do for a lot of people. So we will be doing one to talk about that in the coming weeks. So I just wanted to share that. And I want to turn it over to Steph, who is going to do our raffle, and remind them what we're raffling for before you take that on.
Yes, definitely. So thank you both for coming today. We have a Crumble Cookie gift card that we're super excited to give away. Woo! So I have this fancy wheel here. I already put your names in, and I'm just gonna spin it, and we're gonna see who wins.
Drum roll.
I think it pops up. Oh, awesome, Stephanie! Woo! Congrats. So we have that Crumble gift card, and Jessica's gonna tell you how that she's gonna give it to you.
Yeah, so we will either put that in the mail or find a time that you can pick it up at your school. And so we'll figure that out. Okay. So again, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ryan. Like, I am so jazzed. I want to go apply for college right now. So many great tips, so much advice, and I know that this is going to help so many of our students as they navigate through that process. So thank you for your time, your energy, and thank you for all the support you give to the schools in Springfield. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you for allowing me to come. And thank you, Joseph and Stephanie, for taking the time out of your day, out of your, whatever you're doing on this Wednesday morning, well, afternoon now. But thank you so much for allowing me to come. Hopefully you learned a lot, and I do appreciate it all. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about this, presentation, or if you have questions about the UL, I'm more than happy to help. And thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Rulina. And thank you, Danny. And thank you, Stephanie. You all are amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, welcome, welcome.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.